Welcome to the KMT Line. I hope everyone is doing well. Now, one of the things I like about getting comments is that I can, really use them as a matter of fact. But one of the things I like is they help me start thinking about what I'm really doing and what I want to do. And I received a comment on my update number 31 when I showed my work on these end of track sensors. And it got me to thinking. My original plan is to light up an LED on the control panel and maybe sound a little beep beep or a buzzer. And so I got a comment from Dennis at Otter Creek and Rio Grande Railroad, and it got me to thinking because his comment was a really good comment. He asked me what I was going to do. And then I'm going, well, I thought I was going to do, an LED on a panel and this. And he got me to thinking because he said he has some LEDs hidden at the feet of an HO scale welder. And I think he was going to use that as some sort of an indicator. So when something happened, the welder would start or the welder would stop. And it got me to thinking, when I'm operating the railroad, when we are operating our railroads, we really don't look at the control panel. We're watching the engine, we're watching the locomotive, and we're watching the cars. And so what I decided is because of his comment and me thinking about this, is that rather than lighting up an LED on a control panel, and rather than sounding a buzzer, and buzzer I could still do, but what I decided to do is like he did, some sort of LEDs. So I made this little board and I wired it in to my third 9685 LED and servo controller. But what I have here is the 4 lines for the 4 sensors. And so what I can do is now with the software is when I read an end of track gets occupied, I can do something with an LED. Now the reason I did this now is because once I attach this board to the framework, I'm going to have very limited access underneath here. So running these long wires, back and forth across the layout was just going to be a giant pain in the butt. So this way I can reach underneath here. I have a short run, and then I just connect it right here. And I've already tested there, and I've got another one set just like this. It's only one set of switches, set of connections down for the end of track sensor at the other end of the layout. And so let me show you what it does and how it works, and we'll go from there. Because down at the other end of the layout, what I did is I connected a small white LED to the other connections that I have down at this end for this sensor right there. And so what I did is just some test code that when a car passes over the sensor, it'll blink the LED 3 times. That gives me an indication that I've reached that point. Now what I'll do in the future, I don't know. But one of the things I am thinking is that this is going to be a transfer station, this area here. And so I don't know if this part is going to be covered, if I'm going to be able to actually see how far the cars have gone onto the track or not. So this is just a future thing that's something that I can work with in the future. It says, okay, you've reached a certain point, and time to slow the cars down. Well, that's really it for the end of track. See how that works out in the future. I think it'll be pretty cool. Thank you, Dennis at Otter Creek and Rio Grande. Great input, great comment. Thank you. That is really why I like the comments. Keeps me thinking, gives me other ideas, and kind of really better direction to go. Now the other thing I got done was this control panel. Now this is a simplified control panel. Kind of takes me back to the old days of when I was using Atlas snap switches and all the little snap buttons that the Atlas provided. Simple along the line, just lay them out side by side. So what I did is I created this. Since I'm not going to do end of track sensors, there wasn't any need to have the layout plan on here, the layout figure on here. And so what I did is I just came up with this. First, I want to thank my wife. She did the name for me, She cut this out on her Cricut and put it on for me, because I knew I was never going to be able to do that and get it straight. She's got better eyes than I do and steadier fingers. Now what I have here is it's a 20 character by 4 line LCD display, just used to give me information about what's going on. I have all of the, right now it's just telling me the way I do things is when a thing first starts up, and all my software, when it first starts up, I give the name of the application and the version. In this case, it's a version date, and that it's ready. And then I have the 6 switches, 1 through 6. And this is ready. This is my start state. And when I start state, I have 6 turned, so I have a straight shot from one end of the layout to the other end of the layout without having to make any changes. But then if I want to make a change, I just press the button and it does it. Now, one of the things I do different than a lot of other people is you'll notice that I can press the button and nothing happens. Nothing happens until I release the button. In my software, my Arduino software, I do on button release. It's on a change. You push it in, it's changed. When you release it, now I'm going to take action. So it's on release. So got this, and I got it temporarily mounted. I have a 20-pin connector in the back of this that I run from the Arduino to this, and so it makes it easier for me to be able to remove this when I decide time to put the fascia on. So that's really about it. That's all I've done. Let's go back to the computer and see what else I got going on there. Well, rather than go to the computer, let's look at the layout one last time. Okay, so now what I have all the turnouts wired, all the LEDs for the turnouts wired and working. I have all of the end of track sensors working and wired. I have connections that I can run LEDs in the future for all 5 of the end of track sensors. I think that's it. I think the standard gauge is wired and running and working. So now I think it's time to look at the narrow gauge. And as I've said before, I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I really don't have a clue how to do it. I do know that it's going to be 2 inches higher than the standard gauge. Up 2 inches, there'll be a long retaining wall in the scenery when I start doing the scenic stuff. But I think it's going to be about 2 inches higher. Now the other thing I have is that I have Pico. I'm going to use Pico turnouts. Some of them are electro frogs and some of them are Insel frogs. Sorry folks, it's a narrow gauge HON 30 and I am using narrow gauge, or pardon me, N scale track. It's all N scale track. It's what I have, it's what I'm going to use. So in order to power those electro frog turnouts, I have to figure out a way to connect them to a switch. Now, I'm not going to do it automatic. It's all going to be hand control. I'm going to reach over and flip the switch, and I'll continue using the Pico spring-loaded switches as they come from the factory. I'm not going to modify them, and so I got some thinking about how I'm going to do that. But that will be the next step. Can't think of anything else. I can't think of anything else to can't think of anything to delay it, to delay the operation, to delay the inevitable. So I got to start doing that. But once I can get that, and once I get figured out what I'm going to do with the narrow gauge, then I can remove these cleats and screw this down, the plywood down to the framework permanently, and go from there. So, well, that's it for this update. Thank you everybody for watching. Again, I really appreciate the comments. Thank you to Dennis, Tom, some of the others. Thank you guys very much for commenting. Thank you for viewing. Subscribe, please subscribe. It's free. And I'll see you next time. Thanks and goodbye.